Hey, you're listening to the Treehouse Storyteller. Meet me in the treehouse for God-shaped storytelling. Treehouse Storyteller is where we can come together as messy parents seeking Jesus together and raising kids to love him too. If you aren't scared of addressing cultural issues head on and finding a deeper understanding of the biblical worldview to share with your children, then you've come to the right place. I'm not afraid to be transparent and tell all of the juicy details. Our children are being chased by the world, and it is our job to be well equipped and know not only how to lead our flock, but successfully send our arrows out into the world one day to build the kingdom. So snuggle up by the fire or soak up the sunshine with those earbuds in and meet me in the treehouse for some biblical storytelling. Hey guys, we are here at the NRB in Nashville, Tennessee. The Treehouse went remote this time, and I have with me today an incredibly inspiring person, Walt Heyer. He is my new friend. Thank you for joining me in the Treehouse today, Walt.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me up here in the Treehouse.
That's awesome. It doesn't look like the Treehouse back here. It is a cityscape, actually, of my hometown, South Bend, Indiana. So Walt Heyer is a founder of Sex Change Regret and a faculty member of the Influence Network, which is the booth we are pleasured to sit in right now.
Absolutely.
Walt is considered one of the world's foremost authorities on the transgender phenomenon, as he has authored 7 books on this subject. Wow.
That's right.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Personally experienced sex change regret.
Yep.
And travels extensively to share his unique perspective and expertise. His books include Paper Genders, Pulling the Mask Off of the Transgender Phenomenon, and Trans Life Survivors. Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's so awesome. You have an incredible testimony, and I would love for my audience to hear a piece of that today. Would you mind sharing that?
No, this is outstanding. I am so thrilled to be able to do this. So thank you. Yeah. And what's interesting with me is my journey started when I was 4 years old, when the confusion started. So that was in 1944.
Wow.
Long time ago. It was before they had all the words and they were talking about all this stuff. So what's important to realize is that my grandmother started cross-dressing me when I was 4 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
She made a purple chiffon dress for me and put me in it because I showed some interest in cross-dressing. I have no idea why at this point, but she followed up by making me a dress just to fit my little 4-year-old body, and then began to tell me how cute I am and how wonderful I looked as a girl. Well, today, looking back to 1944, 45, 46, because there was about 2.5 years that she did this in secret at her house when she was babysitting me, but didn't tell my parents. What she was doing ended up being psychological and emotional child abuse. I want the people listening to us today to realize that if you cross-dress a child and affirm them and encourage them in that, you are causing child abuse. You are perpetrating child abuse on a child. And if it wasn't child abuse, I wouldn't be talking to you about it when I'm 83 years old. So it's important for everybody to realize no one in world history has ever changed their gender. Putting a boy in a dress only destroys his life. It destroyed mine, and it destroys thousands of children going through this. And that's why my book, Trans Life Survivors, gives the story about the horrible outcomes just because a parent or someone outside the family cross-dressed their child, told them they could be transgender. There are no transgenders, by the way.
Good. Expand on that. So you believe it's not such thing as transitioning.
Right. Because biologically, no one in world history has ever changed their gender. The only thing you can do is cosmetically change what you look like. Biologically, nothing changes. So they used to call them transvestites and cross-dressers. Mm-hmm. They just enhanced this terminology with transgenderism some years ago when they started giving people hormones and surgery. The most important thing that we can hear today is that hormones and surgery do not change your gender. So it changes your persona. the word persona is accurate because then you look like you changed.
Yeah.
But biologically, you're still a man. We've got a lot of people running around today claiming to be women who are men in a dress.
Yes.
That's all they are. And that's the terminology. So my question to anybody listening is, if you have a child, why would you want to do it to your child what my grandmother did to me?
Right.
Because it's known as adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences actually alter the brain at the level of where a child's identity is being formed. That's why it's abusive. We shouldn't do it. We should be affirming a child in the way God made them.
Yeah.
Because that's who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's not what we see in our medical, our doctors, our pediatricians today. We're seeing affirming in the medical community and with a lot of parents and culturally and in our school systems. So what would you speak to them? Why are they saying that that's okay? And they thinking that it's okay?
Everybody who's speaking up about giving people hormones and transitioning people, which nobody has ever transitioned, by the way, is that there are the financial beneficiaries of the language.
Yeah.
They are the financial beneficiaries of the language. That's the only reason they're doing it. They're in this arena to make money.
Yep.
And so they have to perpetrate a crime on children. And this crime is giving children hormones that harm them and cutting off body parts, which is very barbaric. I mean, this is like crazy. Mm-hmm. Who is ripping? And here's the other thing. Your child going through these hormone blockers and surgeries, if they're a boy, will not be able to produce sperm and be a father as an adult. This is the kind of destructive, long-term life damage we're doing to children. Many of the females will go through these surgeries, take hormone blockers, won't be able to be a mother.
Right.
So it's actually having an effect on population growth.
Yeah.
So it's sort of an abortion 2.0 in a whole different view of abortion.
Sure. That's a really good point. Now, as the founder of Sex Change Regret, can you tell us a little bit about what that is and why you started that?
Yeah, well, as I said, I started cross-dressing and started identifying or talking privately to people about being Crystal West when I was 13 years old. And then I went through life cross-dressing, not really understanding what it was all about. I got married. That's another point. It was never about homosexuality. I got married, told my wife at the time that I was struggling with this, but we thought, getting married and having children would cure the issues, right? And so I had a good job. I did all those things. And I went to a gender therapist who said, well, you need hormones and surgery. And so
and what years was this?
That was 1981.
Okay.
And so for 2 years, I went through all the protocols that they have for the WPATH standards and took the hormones, divorced my wife, had surgery in 1983. It's almost 41 years ago.
Wow.
And so I went through that and identified as a female, living as Laura Jensen for 8 years. I worked for the federal government at FDIC. I worked for the Postal Service. Had a good job. But the fact of the matter was, I was working one day and I said, I don't want my identity to be just a word.
Mm.
And that's when I started studying this and realizing that the people who are identifying as a transgender, calling themselves, if they're men, saying they're women or vice versa, they had suffered something in their childhood that caused them to not like who they were, just like I did. So I realized that I wanted to take this the next step. I began the process of getting my life back. If you go to the sexchangeregret.com, that's what it says on there, getting my life back. It's not about detransitioning. It's about getting your life back. You never transitioned in the first place. So
it's finding that original identity of who you are.
That's right. And so you get your life back. And when I did that, a few years later, I said, I want to find out how many people regret having gone through this like I did. Am I the only one? So we started the website. In the first year, we had a few hundred. And by 2015, when Bruce Jenner came out, at one day we had 15,000 people.
Oh my heavens!
To the website in one day.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that year we actually had 356,000 people visit the site.
Oh my goodness!
We've had over 2 million emails to the site. Now, over the last few years, because of all the things that they do to kind of numb us down and not let us get out there, the algorithms have stopped us from reaching people. So the numbers have dropped dramatically, not because there's not more people hurting. It's because they're trying to control how many people have access to getting help.
Whoever controls the algorithms controls the agenda and the word and the world.
And how many people can have access to help they need.
Right.
And so there's a lot of people out there who need help. And that's what Lucas is doing at Influence Network by doing this. We're expanding that opportunity so we can reach a lot more people and bring more resources into the arena so that we can help thousands of people.
That's wonderful. That's just such an awesome testimony that you have and work that you're doing. I'm so thankful that you have the boldness in your heart and just that courageous spirit to want to help those around you and help those that you otherwise couldn't reach because they're home alone and sad and scared and lost.
Well, and the parents too, right?
Yes,
and the parents need the information, and that's why they should go to Sex Change Regret. That's why they need to get a book like Trans Life Survivors or Paper Genders and read the history and realize that even the people who started this have come out and said, this is not good. And, gender affirming care, by the way, in October of last year, the lady who pioneered gender affirming care in Finland came out and said, gender affirming care, these are her words, not mine, is dangerous. Dr. Kattiela, she's a psychiatric psychologist who works with children who pioneered this care. And after 10 years says it's dangerous, don't do it.
Wow.
That's powerful.
Wow.
That's not coming from me. That's a testimony from a doctor who said, don't do it. Parents, don't do it.
Yeah. So parents, for those of you watching and listening, Walt has just, oh my goodness, his experience and everything. He's a wealth of knowledge. If this is something in your household, I would take it very seriously. It is not just, a big sister putting on her little brother's toenails or something, polish and playing a game, but we should take this very serious. It's something that can really harm our children for the long term. And check out his books, check out Sex Change Regret. What would you recommend to people who have, obviously they go to Sex Change Regret, but what is something you would tell parents that are worried about this in their life? And maybe it's not a for sure thing, but they're just trying to prevent this because our culture is screaming it everywhere we turn.
Yeah, there's some important precautions that parents can take. Number one, if your child has access to a computer, then each day you need to be checking the search history on that computer and see what they're looking at. This is extremely important. There's predators out there that are on the internet that want your child to transition and identify as a female. These are dangerous people. I can't use it's dangerous.
And also males to females, but females to males.
Absolutely.
It is affecting little girls just as much.
Even more so.
Yeah.
They seem to be more prone to it because they get in groups and do it. Boys do this on their own in secret.
Yeah.
Girls seem to do it in groups. 3 or 4 girls get together and do this.
Their friend group. Everyone's doing it. It's just like it's like a peer pressure really gone wrong.
Well, we call this, there's a word for it, and the listeners to your podcast can look up the word social contagion.
Yes.
That's a powerful word. If they look up what a social contagion is, you'll see how this insanity, and I call it insanity because it is insanity, how it spreads from one kid to the other. So that's one of the components, knowing who your child is connected with and realize that this social contagion can take over. And I've told some parents, you may need to take your child out of school.
Yeah.
Public schools are not a safe place for your child today. Sorry, there's good teachers out there, but a lot of them, the good teachers don't have the ability to change the policies in the schools that push these things on our children. And I've worked with girls as young as 10 years old that the school tried to transition a mother's child at 10 years old without the parent's knowledge.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important for parents to look at the search history on their computer. Don't let your child have a computer in their bedroom alone.
Oh,
it must be out in the living room on the table so that everyone can see what content they're looking at. Don't let them have a cell phone and take it to their room.
Yeah.
These are all important things. So you look at
and that's not even things that you had growing up. You didn't have any of those things. And now so it's that much more scary that now there's all of that coming at them.
That's right. And when you cross-dress a child, you've planted a seed. And it begins to alter their brain at the level of where they're thinking about their identity. This is so harmful.
Yeah.
It's shameful.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I just can't say this enough.
Yeah.
This is called institutionalized child abuse.
Yeah.
And we must stop it. And parents are in the position to put a halt to it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And we have to come at their identity from a biblical perspective, right? Fill them with, this is who God says you are. You're a child of God. You're made in his image. He made you perfectly from the beginning, either male or female. And if we plant those seeds instead, the other seeds might wash away and not actually take root in their life and in their heart.
That's so important because, there's every cell in a child's body, in an adult's body as well, but in a child's body is marked with their gender sex code.
Yes.
And they can't change that.
Wow.
So when we think about whether it's 20,000 cells or chromosomes, every one of them is marked. And every one of them has that genetic code of their gender sex. No doctor, no hormones, no nothing can ever change that. Your child cannot change his gender.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful how God has made us. So what did you learn about God's love during your period of, what's the phrase that you use on the website?
Living the life identifying as a female.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that was I learned that there's a lot of people in the Christian community that are confused about it, but there's a lot of people in the Christian community that have a big heart and want to help people. And they recognize that these individuals are struggling. I was fortunate to be surrounded by those people.
Oh, that's good.
And they came alongside me and they prayed for me for many years. But the incident that really was most important for any child is prayer. We need to be praying for them that they get their life back. Yeah. We want them to get their life back, the one that God created for them at the moment of conception, 9 months before they're born. So parents, if you're listening to this podcast and you hear this term, what gender was your child assigned at birth? You go, no, that's not how it works. Their gender is fixed and innate at the time of conception, almost 9 months or about 9 months before they're born. Yeah. So don't let them fool you with this stuff. Don't be suckered into believing that your child can change their gender. You'll be harming your child and destroying their life. I can testify that, and I've been doing it for years.
Yeah. Well, it was so, so good having you here. I have learned a lot, and I'm really glad I got to finally sit down with you. Walt and I met through email about a year ago.
Yep.
And he has been so amazing. He's actually my first endorser of my next book, which is Misunderstood. And I'm so thankful to have that relationship with you and that endorsement. And that's just such a blessing to me.
Pleasure.
And parents, go out, learn more about Walt's story, go to sexchangeregret.com and take full use of those resources and connect with us. So it'd be great.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you, Walt.
Pleasure.
You too. This is a perfect episode to let you know about my latest project in children's book release called Misunderstood, A Girl with a Promise the World Forgot. It is a compelling story of the rainbow personified as a feminine character misunderstood, a refreshing retale of the true history of the rainbow and how its colors came to be. It is a reclaiming of God's promise to all creation and his children, reflecting back to Genesis and the flood. In this beautifully painted, poetic book, young children and adults alike will reshift their modern society thinking to a timeless meaning of God's bow across the sky. Without rain, we don't have rainbows, and without the rainbow, we wouldn't have this special promise. Turn every colorful page to see how Misunderstood gives the reader a much-needed reminder of who she really is. She is a girl with a promise the world forgot. You can pre-order now on the treehousestoryteller.com in paperback and hardcover for the little ones in your life. So go order and be prepared to pray over the seeds of truth you are planting with Misunderstood. Head on over to the treehousestoryteller.com for more products, artwork, photography, and encouragement. See you next time.